Hello, everyone, and welcome to Traffic Corner Tuesday. My name is Paul Kern. I'm your host for today's webinar. Today, we are discussing school circulation plans. Before we dive in, we want you to remember to join the conversation, share your experience throughout the presentation. We will circle back to the questions at the end. Traffic Corner Tuesday webinar series is brought to you by Mike on Traffic, which is part of the SPAC Enterprise family of companies. SPAC Enterprise consists of a group of create healthy transportation systems and fixing broken ones. Today's presenters are Mike Speck and Brian Fiesick. Mike is the creative force and principal writer of the industry-leading blog Mike on Traffic. He is a licensed operations engineer. Bryant is the vice president and also a licensed PE and certified PTOE. Both have worked with multiple school districts and cities to evaluate their specific concerns. These projects generally cover traffic operations for existing peak hour conditions, traffic impact studies for new schools or expansion reviews, travel demand management plans that focus on improving non-motorized travel, and to improve safety around schools. Take it away, Mike and Brian.
Thank you, Paul. Yeah, thanks, Paul. Welcome, everyone. We're excited as school is underway in a lot of parts of the country and starting up here in Minnesota next week for most schools. This is a very, just really can make a huge impact to a lot of people's lives. And I think everyone feels good when they get to work on schools.
That's right. That's a great intro as we start out here. So 20 minutes. People who have kids and who have gone through the routine can easily say 20 minutes would be, yeah, that's about the amount of time it would take to get to my kid's school, be there, wait for them to come out, pick them up. There can be a lot of delay in that pickup time.
Yeah, there's typical. We've worked on schools where the kids in the afternoon is over half an hour.
Mm-hmm. So if you take that 20 minutes and you just do some simple math and say, what if we could take that 20 minutes? What if we could reduce that to 5 minutes? About 100 cars over 180-day school year.
Families waiting to pick up their kids at a pretty typical school, based on the feedback we're getting, going in and spending a day or two on helping a school with their drop-off procedure. We can, at that school, 4,500 hours per year. That is something to really feel great about.
And as two things in addition to that, which are also not insignificant if I use the double negative rate as well. So in addition to the delay, we can make everything operate better. And then also we reduce those calls to the school officials that, hey, why is it taking me a half hour to pick up my kid? So yeah. all good things that can come out of these
to city engineering departments and public works departments.
Yes, very much so. All right, so then diving into the presentation here, the couple things we're going to talk about, focus on our guiding principles, what we think about as we are looking at school circulation, and then going into a couple of case studies.
So starting up with the first grade, separating the modes of the different users. So we really want to make sure that kids who are walking and biking are not crossing paths with vehicles going 30, 40 miles an hour to campus. We improve operations a lot, improve sight distance. Staff cars, if we can make sure they're off on a different part of the campus, that is, so kids aren't weaving through their cars to that carpool pickup drop off where the most chaotic operation is happening on a school campus. If we can smooth that out, really schools and gas stations to separate the crossing paths as much as possible is really important.
It goes right along with it, but controlling that drop off and pickup area. So similar to keeping them separated, we don't want it to be a free-for-all. It shouldn't be all at different times, leaving all at different times. You have kids going in and out as people are double parking. There's a lot of things that can go wrong with that drop-off pickup area. So you want to maintain as much control over it as you can.
Yeah, that usually means having staff out there. Or that always means having staff out there.
Even if it's a volunteer, someone out there to watch just makes the drivers behave a little bit better.
Yeah, enforce the social norms. And I think when we have any crossing paths of different modes or as the vehicles are coming up to a pickup drop-off zone, that improves safety.
Yeah, I think that's an obvious one. Proper signing and pavement markings. We've seen the gambit from nothing to overkill, and there is a balance in there. You don't need signs every 10 feet trying to direct the parents on what to do, but they do need some direction. Should be the white lines to guide. So making sure that they conform with the MUTCD, Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices, as well as provide the appropriate level of guidance.
Yeah, and we like painted crosswalks as well at key points on the campus.
Definitely. Number 5 on our list is increasing student visits. Can see what they need to, where they're going, and vice versa. Any drivers can also see the students. And that can come in a variety of different ways, but the one we look for right away is where's the vegetation,
Yeah.
what's the landscaping look like around the school, and how does that impact where any of those crossing or conflict points.
A good job, but sometimes there's swales in the spots that make sense for drainage and other things, but can block sight lines of kids. And so those are all things as you're starting to work on a school to understand the existing travel patterns, you need to take those into account. And then lastly is direction. The students, the parents, the staff, the administration. One thing I learned early from a parent who was great at boiling down communication on one of the first schools I worked on was just when kids are present, cars aren't moving. Just kind of boil it down to just a little phrase of kids are moving.
Yeah, that one I think is particularly important, just like Mike said, but just getting that out there 2-3 times a year to remind parents, hey, this is the procedure we have. This is the expectations we have, and take it slow.
Yeah, and now is the time of year to have videos on websites, different brochures, back to school nights, which I'm going to tomorrow night, kind of up to the students in advance.
Exactly.
So let's jump into our first case study, which is Epiphany School here in Minnesota, school with about 400 kids, and they estimate on and up kids. They have 10 school buses coming to the parking lot. And when they first came to us, basically they had a giant parking lot, and it was a free-for-all with overlapping modes everywhere.
Yeah, and I think this was last year that we looked at this, and in the email that went to Mike for assistance, I think this really drives home what we're talking about here.
Yeah, and I worked with Ann at principal, and I followed up, spoke with her a couple weeks ago, and she said it was pretty miraculous that all change is hard, especially at schools. Parents are always skeptical, and it's hard to control parents. So often to get their kids to walk out, to do all kinds of shenanigans to avoid the system. She said that the system we implemented, and I'll go over here, was going so smooth that halfway into the school year, and those parents who were skeptical and didn't opt into the system actually came asking, how do we get into the system? It was working so well.
All right, so here we have a picture of that school. So as you can see, it is a parking lot. This is a religious school, so they had services on Sunday.
Main, is that pointer coming through? Doesn't look like it. So on the north side is the church, and on the south side is the school. And this photo looks like it was taken more on a church day than a school day.
There we go.
There we go. Entrance is down here by the pointer. But it really was a free-for-all where the buses were parking and parents were parking and staff were parking. Unfortunately, as often happens, staff were taking the convenient prime front door kind of retail store or any other use. People gravitate towards the convenience. So we had to figure out how can we break things down, going back to our guiding principles. Can we paths? Can we really segregate how the pickup drop-off works? And can we get to a one-way flow on the site to make everything very predictable, which is one thing we really like in a school campus, is crossings. And then making sure that if somebody came in the wrong entrance, we could deal with them. And then also getting staff out there, which Ann Kuhn was very dedicated to, but also making sure in proper gear so they were, one, visible. We don't want them getting hit, but also two, to give them some authority in the process. And then that leads to the benefit of kind of enforcement. And then lastly, getting some temporary signs and barriers out there. One challenge here is that this whole parking lot gets filled up on a Sunday morning for church. So it kind of this dual purpose, we can't totally take measures.
All right, so as we switch our graphic on the right there, you can see some of the things we implemented.
So up on the north side, there were some semi-permanent barricades we put up that would be out there Monday through Friday. Those are the other kicked out to the western portion of the driveway. Going down, and that's where buses came in. And then the buses we had park on the north side of the middle yellow line.
Yeah, let's go. So just
in the
we
red,
had some cones to direct them here. Oh, sorry.
Set up so parents wouldn't park in there at the wrong times, but then we removed that once the pickup drop-off procedures got moving.
And that was just basically cones and ropes, just some simple things to delineate that area, but easy one, just like Mike was saying here. You can see we've highlighted the different areas. So this was for their drop-off in the morning. So as we have here, bus zone right up front. So buses were able to come in whichever side they came in. If they came in at the exit, pretty close, the kids could come out to the sidewalk and move to where the school was. Any parents who wanted to walk in, talk to a teacher,
bring in their pre-K.
That was the next set of parking. So that was, again, where the parent would physically get out of the car and go into the school too. So that's a distinction from up here. So unfortunately, the teachers and all the support staff, they don't get the prime parking anymore.
Help them increase their steps every day.
That's right.
Part of the wellness program.
And then we move into the curbside drop-off. So again, whichever entrance they came in, they were redirected around the lot through this area where they could have the drop-off and then circulating back out.
So with all of these, for both the buses and the cars, we want out that then have to weave through vehicles.
Exactly. And here we have, this is the pickup. Most of it is the same. However, you'll notice a nice big blue one here. That's our pickup zone. So as the pickup drop-offs can be a little more, it's also a little faster. They're out the door and you go. Pickup can take more. We needed to get more people in at once.
Yep. So we kind of set them up the staff direct them into almost a NASCAR style grid pattern of fifth and radio it into the school to let the staff inside send the right kids out at the right time. And then once all the cars are loaded up, release the vehicles to kids and cars not moving at the same time. Very controlled.
Mm-hmm. And so one of our principles was setting that expectation. And so what we're going to show you here is a quick little video that they put together to help explain.
Yep. I think this was only a couple of days after we delivered our report before school started. They're able to do this quickly. And this is all their staff. So this is during their back to school week for the staff. Before school started, they had the staff queue up and run through the procedure in their cars to mock it up.
Mm-hmm.
But they put this video right on it, hit play. Hopefully technology will not fail us here.
Yep, I don't know what we got here.
Okay, well, you can imagine. It's a quick little video that's just showing the cars coming into the grid path. You can imagine that if you set that up for an hour and got video from a couple of different angles, how your 13-year-old child could splice it together into a 90-second video.
This is on YouTube, so this would be something that you could search later. It's
Email us
available.
later. I wrote a blog post about this, so lots of places. Sorry about the technical hiccup.
Yep.
Just to wrap up Epiphany, though, Ann was telling me they were kind of that success story of things taking 20 minutes in the afternoon on average, and they are down to about that 5-minute mark. They're able to kind of flush the kids out and get all the parents out. Change adding up to saving thousands of hours during a school year. So this really makes the administration of the school look like a hero. And as the traffic engineer who helped them, makes me feel pretty good too.
Exactly. All right, high school, a lot more student drivers, a little bit fewer on the drop-off and pickups, but they're still there. Not all the students drive. And this is, let's see if I point some stuff out here. So you've got the school in the middle. You can see parking lots all the way around. So when we came to them, or when they asked us for help on this side over here, this lot, although the aerial shows some cars parked in there, during the school year, this is reserved for buses only. They have their own access. They come in separately. This connection is blocked off, as is this one. So this is completely segregated, all for the buses. They have marked. They had some of those procedures in place, but there was still some of those conflicts that they just weren't happy about. Their parking lots were still a little chaotic. Any of the drop off into different positions.
And they do have a traffic signal out there at their entrance on the west side, and that was backing up too.
Yeah, long queues that sometimes hit this internal intersection. Lots of different problems there. One of the first things we did is got them to revise student parking, but we also looked at the entire campus and put most of the student parking back here. So the general student parking, this north lot over here is reserved for their kids, and they need to stop in the office, talk to whoever. This is that area where they can park and go. Staff parking is down here, and this last lot on this corner, this is the entrance for the drop-off pickups. So this is the main drop-off pickup with good grades, seniors. There's different ways that they can earn that parking, and separating all those out or providing that additional separation helped. Yeah, that was perfect the way they had that. Next.
Yeah, go ahead.
Next one was the drop off and pickup. Like I said, it's in this area, but there was no order to it. People jockeyed around. They went where they wanted to, basically trying to get the fastest. It was too chaotic there, so they tried to make other drop off pickup areas, tell their kids where to go to try to jump the line, go faster. So very simple thing we did, having them come down here and loop around the back. That one-way flow coming through gives a lot more curb space for those drop-off and putting more space in there for the drop-off pickups. For this internal intersection, particularly for the pickup, when they're coming in the afternoon, this was closed off to this northern lot. So able to jump the line anymore, provided that orderly flow down. It also made this intersection operate a little bit better because instead of this crossing pattern you have here with more conflicts, you now have essentially people coming out of this and they could take turns and go.
And it also has the benefit of greatly reducing the conflicts for those students going up to lot number 1 to get to their cars. Being coned off there, it was much more pedestrian friendly, a lot less conflicts, crossing maneuvers.
Next, we took a look at that signal timing, and we were able to work with the city, look at their timing, and put in a timing plan for the morning and the afternoon that operating operations on the main line. We were able to shift a little green time, put some minimums, maximums in, just basically the whole review of that timing allowed for those operations to improve.
Yep. And then lastly, and again, going back to the video that didn't work, but these things are so important to communicate with the parents, get their buy-in, communicate with. This is off of the high school's website, flyer here, and they put together the map, they put together the bullet points based on our work, but on the website is fantastic.
Yeah, and this goes out to everyone. You can see from the map, this is exactly what we were talking about. They've got the arrows for the drop-off pickup, crossings, fully identified on there, and then expectations with the bullet points of what there are points in there for the parents as well, is to take your time, watch for students, kind of we're all in this together.
Yep. Okay, well, so that's kind of the guiding principles we went through, and kind of a couple of different. I certainly wasn't taught about any of this in my civil engineering degree program, so this is a little bit on the edge of what traffic engineers end up doing, but we've worked on a lot of schools now, and we love working on schools and want to share these ideas with you in case a school pops up in your career to work on.
Well, in particular, the ones we presented were our short-term improvements. This is a project we worked on last year. We were able to present those. They were able to implement a lot of what we suggested, and that was let's get that low-hanging fruit. Let's make things let's improve things as much as we can right now. And then we had a second set that we didn't go into here. We didn't have enough time to go into it, but they're long-term. It's when you have budget, you can do more. When you can put in more permanent items, we had those in there. One of the items we looked at or we suggested was having a table for the crosswalks. Acts as a speed hump, will slow the traffic down. Students don't have to go up and down on the curb. They're just crossed right there. So a way to slow traffic and increase the visibility of those crossings.
Yeah, and that's a typical part of our process, and maybe some ropes and flags as step one. What can we do next week? But then after that, we'll take a look at any more permanent to semi-permanent, changing around curbs and things in the parking lots to reduce the number of cones we have to deploy the following school year. Those cool toolbox of traffic calming measures. Speed tables are great. We'd like to take that next look as well.
So we do have some questions coming in. Stephanie asks, do you have an estimate of the rate at which vehicles move through the pickup line at Epiphany Catholic, vehicles per minute, etc.?
In about 20 cars per wave, so they're moving kids in about a minute. They have the kids queued up, they radio ahead, so staff inside knows which kids to, if the school is committed and has enough staff people to get things organized. But that rate, just like we found with the data collection we did for valets, those rates are wildly dependent on local factors of how many staff people, efficient are you getting?
How many students are coming in and out? Just the attendance at the school. Are there more siblings that they have to wait for? There's lots of factors that go into that.
Yes.
So she says, thank you. Charles asks, were infrastructure improvements, would you propose that?
Okay, so we kind of touched on that the step one was temporary, but step two, we did look at more permanent changes.
And that was, I will mention, that was in conjunction with both the city and school staff. We had meetings had almost a brainstorming meeting where we did throw out some different ideas, like moving the drop-off pickup to that north lot, some other things. That would have required a lot more from the school. So having them tell us what was and wasn't possible in their realm, things that they could think of and not think of, that was when we put our long-term items together. it wasn't a complete shock, first of all, but they had some buy-in with, yeah, these are things that we could accomplish.
Yeah, and we've worked, one of the schools we worked on last year, they even ended up buying more property adjacent. Third, fourth phase of what we were talking about, how could we change up the whole internal procedure? They also had a shortage of on-site parking. So that really added a lot of flexibility of the work that's available. But we always start with what can we do next week with some cones and invested staff.
Exactly.
So Charles has a follow-up to that, which is, would you on due to the vehicle conflicts with a two-line of cars?
You can do 2 lines, and that's going back to Epiphany. I think it was a grid, maybe 4 lines. But the key there is that all of the cars are stopped at the same time. Then the kids are loaded, and once all the kids are loaded, the cars are released. So you're batching. I mean, you can't send out 300 kids at the same time, but kind of more than 1 line is better in the afternoon pickup procedure.
That's it so far.
Okay.
All right.
So thank you, everyone. And just to let you covering speeds on residential streets, we've done a bunch of digging and looking at residential roads with posted speeds of 25, how they operate differently than posted speeds of 30 miles per hour, or how they don't operate differently. To see you next month, and please feel free to shoot me an email if you want to link to that Epiphany video or have any follow-up questions.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.